Welcome to a new video of 1d6. Today we're talking about one of my favorite topics. Today we're talking about the top 5 board games of all times. William has prepared his top 5 board games and I've prepared my top 5 board games. And let's discuss it, William. Let's get into it.
Sure, let's see if there are any differences compared to our games last year.
So before we start this video, let's set some ground rules before we look at our top 5 lists. And one of the major things I want to point out is that we've played these games extensively. There are a lot of games on our shelves, but some games we've played once, some games we have never played. And these are games that are all really appealing to us. But the games we've selected on these lists are games that we've played over and over and over, and we're able to say what our opinion is based on a lot of experience within the games.
Sure, so let's continue.
So obviously let's start at number 5. William, what have you brought for us? What's your number 5 of this year?
Well, my number 5 is Northgard. Northgard, to start off, is a game which I don't think you can get in retail, but if you can, I'll leave a link down the video. Northgard is an area control game based upon the computer game. And in Northgard there's a card mechanic, a drafting mechanic, in which you need to build a deck which makes you able to explore or build or attack other players.
Yeah, move your units around.
Correct, and I really like that mechanic in the game. I think it is really fitting for a 4X game that you also have to make do with the cards that you have. So not always all options are on the table.
Exactly.
So there's a very thinky or strategic layer in this game, which I really like.
Yeah, but it isn't very complex. The game is pretty smooth and it's actually a pretty streamlined 4X game.
Yeah, and we never make it within the estimated time of the game, but it is quite a game which we always have the ability to play out. So we never have to quit the game because we can't play any further.
Oh, it's pretty fast paced.
It's pretty fast paced.
Exactly. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I like the game too, and I think it's a smart combination of drafting, deck building and area control. And you don't have very much units on the board. It's all pretty simplified and streamlined, but it helps players to get into the game. So it does not a very high entry point for new players to join the party.
No, there's just one little bit of critique, and that is for the players that like minis. This game doesn't, sure it has minis, but the quality of the minis, you can just use better units that you have somewhere lying around because they all look the same pretty much, except for the heroes.
I can pretty much agree upon your number 5. Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Sure. So let's hear it from you.
Yeah, I have a different game. I don't have Northgard on my list, but I have Libertalia Winds of Galecrest on my list. And I will explain why. Because if you look at Board Game Geek, the game is not in the top 100 games, I think. But what I like very much about this game is that it is very easy to set up, it's very easy to explain, and you'll be playing the game within 10 minutes tops. And I really like to bring this game to a big player group who wants to play a bit of a more strategic board game. Not too much, but just the entry-level, mid-level range board game. And I like the game for its mechanics because it's something pretty original, I think. And it has, it's able to pull players in the game and let them play the game within 5 minutes on a very strategic level.
Yeah, because the heart of the game is in the cards, and the cards, you all get the same numbers, or at least the cards all have the same number. So you know of your opponent which cards they have and which cards they've played.
If you don't know the game is about airships and you go on journeys to get treasure, and you have a crew, and each crew member is represented by a card, and every player has their own crew, but it's exactly the same crew as all the other players. And every round in the game you have to choose a crew member who has his own special abilities to put in a order line. And you have to think things out. Okay, am I going for this card right now, or do I save it for a future turn? And am I able to backstab William, for instance, to get the treasure before he is able to? So it's a very it has a little bit of a trick-taking game, and it has a little bit of bluffing in it, and I like that. I like that for a game that suits for 6 players. I really like that.
I can get where you're coming from. I can also somewhat understand why it's at turn number 5, but what I can't really understand is we haven't played this game that much.
No, but okay, maybe it will wear out a little bit over time, I must agree, but this game is very easy to grasp.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay,
sure.
Do we agree?
Yeah,
oh, fine. Okay, let's continue to number 4 on the list.
Number 4? My number 4 is hate.
Hate?
Hate.
Seriously?
Yeah, hate.
Okay, explain why. Oh no, explain what the game is and then explain why you like it.
Hate is a game which, again, I don't think you can get in retail anymore.
No, not at all.
Hate is a game in which every player has a faction, and you play this game over multiple games.
Yeah.
The goal of the game is in a bit area control, but it is at least the clan on top of the other clan. So you need to have the most victories to enter in the center, if I'm correct. And the game revolves around killing people, so getting heads or hate, and getting food, if I'm correct, resources. And you need to use those resources to upgrade your units. Yeah. Your units can die. If they die, you can't use them for the next round. They can get a wound, and those wounds that are going to be sleeved on your card. So, for instance, your guy usually does 3 damage, or at least 3 dice, if I'm correct. And now he can only use 1 die.
Yeah, because he's missing an arm, for instance.
And I really like this mechanic. Every battle is different. Every battle is a new strategy, because your units are constantly shifting. At one time they are good, at one time they are bad. You can even get mercenaries who are monsters in all. It can be really fun to play with. The only downside of this game is that you need to have a player group that is ready to play this game for multiple times. Yeah. And that is also why it isn't on my top 1. Yeah. Because at one point, usually some players have been in more than 1 defeat, and they suffer from defeatism.
Yeah, they're falling behind. Yeah. I have a little more critique to this game to add what you just told us. I think the game is fine, but it's not top 5 for me, and that's because it's a 1 versus 1 player. So yeah, you can play with a bigger player group, but these are all mini competitions. So it's William versus me, and it's another friend versus another friend, and so it's not all dudes on the map. You're playing 1 versus 1. And another thing is, I think the armies are quite unbalanced. So there are definitely armies which are better than the other armies. And so if you're unlucky, or you just give out the armies at random, you can be very unlucky with a weaker army to play. So I like the game. I also think there's too little variety within the game. So yeah, you have King of the Hill mission, and you have get the most resources, for instance, but I think there are 5 different game types.
Yeah, that's correct.
And so when you play the game over and over and over, it gets a little bit
repetitive.
Old. Yeah, we never managed to play it that much.
Sure, I'll be fine. I won't be having it on my top 5 next year.
Okay, that's a promise.
What's your number 4?
Okay. Well, it's a classic, and it's a fading memory, but it's Pandemic Legacy. This game still deserves all the praise I can give the game, because I really enjoy this game. And if you ask me this top 5 list, I think 2-3 years ago, it would be probably higher on the list. It's just I've played all the seasons of Pandemic Legacy, and it's a fading memory, because I won't be playing it anytime soon anymore. And well, Pandemic, if you have never played Pandemic, shame on you, because it's one of the best games out there. But well, essentially you're a group of players with which has been challenged to solve a crisis. There's a pandemic obviously out there, and you need to cure patients and also find a cure for the pandemic out there. And the legacy element is added on later on to the game. So you have Pandemic, just a core game, but if you play the legacy version, you're challenged with all kind of different mechanisms. So it starts out pretty basically, but yeah, after I think the first game actually, things start to change.
Yeah,
and that's a mind-blowing experience if you're going it through to the first time.
Sure, but we just did a review of the King's Dilemma, and one of the replies on that video was a very strong reply of someone who said it was way better than Pandemic Legacy because it has much more of a sandboxy feeling. So Pandemic isn't really a campaign. There's more a little bit of a and B choice behind the scene, and the impact overall isn't all that high.
I agree partially with this critique. Thank you. Yes, the storyline isn't the best out there. Sure, but there's an open world to explore, and you can actually choose where you want to go to, where you want to be when the pandemic breaks out. So that's something different from each player group.
Okay.
And also the way you build up your characters, because they can have perks but also disadvantages. So those are the things that differ between player groups. But it isn't really about the story, I think. It's about game mechanics and keeping things fresh. So one thing I really like about board games is the sense of exploration. And Pandemic offers the sense of exploration because you have to explore the world. In some of the seasons, you just start at a very small spot on the world and you have to explore what happened to the other continents.
Yeah, sure.
But it's also the sense of exploring in the rules, because the pandemic is evolving. So you think you have everything under control, but the next time you play the game, there are a couple of extra rules, and yeah, it's really fun, and you want to see what's next. You want to see what's next, and before you know it, you're through the season.
Okay. So let's continue on. I want to know what your third is.
Oh, my third.
Yeah, so we're going to spice some things a little bit up.
Okay, this is a hard choice for me, but I have Aeon, Trespass, Odessy on number 3, and I'll explain why. I really like the RPG-like games on the computer, but also on board games. But if you're going to board games with an RPG-like game, you have to make some adjustments to make it work. I really like Gloomhaven, but it has several flaws. And I really like Tainted Grail, but it has several flaws too. And one thing I don't like about Gloomhaven, and maybe a little bit about Tainted Grail, is the pacing of the game. I want a game that integrates combat with a story, with character development and all that kind of things. It needs to be a natural feel to it. It needs to be bonded together instead of separate game elements. If you take Gloomhaven, for instance, I think it's too much of, okay, you're going into the dungeon, do all the fighting. It's the buff of the game, the biggest part of the game.
Yeah.
So, okay, wow, you won the game. Okay, well, you have several experience points. Okay, do your leveling up. It's just this tiny bit of a game. Okay, you can buy some gear. Oh yeah, there's a bit of a storyline, which is very, very...
Yeah, sure.
Well, okay, I like it, but it can be compared to Tainted Grail, for instance. And oh, it's up to the next dungeon.
Yeah.
So I don't feel it's balanced. I don't feel it like experience a story or exploring, like, for instance, I told you on Pandemic, for instance.
Okay.
On Tainted Grail, I like it a bit more, but it has another flaw, and that is grinding. You need to grind for resources. Grinding. And on the first 6 chapters it's fine, but after all I think, okay, this is too much grinding. I don't like it anymore. And I think
Aeon Trespass Odessy does suffer a little bit from that mechanic too.
Yes, it does, but I think the game needs it to make it a tense game. You need the resources to survive. It's not too grindy, I guess. And I really like that these are boss battles. So every battle feels very important. It's a giant boss, he's very powerful, and one little mistake can cause death. So there's a real sense of danger out there.
Yeah.
I really like that. But it also has the exploring, and it has a pretty good storyline too. And I think all these elements integrate in a pretty natural feel, and I really like that.
Sure, that's your right to your opinion. I don't
Thank
really.
God.
I don't really agree. Of course, it's your opinion, but I do like the game.
Yeah.
But what I do find with Aeon Trespass Odessy is that still the upgrading of your heroes, or at least your weapons, is also pretty. All right, fight done. Next thing is upgrading. Okay, there's a resource tree. Oh yeah, there's a resource tree, which you, you just unlocked this. Yeah. Oh shit, I don't have the resources. Oh, I need to grind more.
It's a really hard game.
It's a very punishing game.
But the feeling of winning is so rewarding.
That I can agree on, and that is less with Gloomhaven.
Yeah.
I also think that with Gloomhaven, if you played it once and you failed the mission, you know exactly what to do in the next time.
Okay.
And that is nowhere near with Aeon Trespass Odessy.
No.
That is something I really like. I really like how when you hit the boss that you draw the card and you need to do at least this much damage to hit him this time.
Yeah.
I do really like that mechanic. And I also like the traveling mechanic, and I can get where you're coming from with the story. Only the administration around the game.
Yeah, okay.
That's a hassle at another level, like
Gloomhaven. Okay. I agree on that, but
there are some flaws with this game.
but they're working the kinks, I think, because one thing that is coming is an audio app, and really helps. I think really helpful. The narrative app really helps the experience.
Sure. Okay, my number 3 is Nemesis Lockdown. I changed it at the last moment. It's Nemesis Lockdown.
Quite a surprise.
Quite a surprise. And why? I like games with a trader co-op mechanic, which this game certainly has.
Yeah.
In Nemesis Lockdown, you're a crew which is stranded on a base on Mars, and you need to get out.
Yeah.
During the game, you need to repair rooms that you are trying to explore.
Yeah.
And one of you could be a trader. You're not even sure if there's a trader on board. And at least there's one common enemy, and those are the aliens that will be spawning throughout the base in this game.
Yeah.
I think that Nemesis Lockdown does several things better than Nemesis.
That's true, but Nemesis, the first part of Nemesis was more streamlined, so I think it's easier for starting players or mid-level players to get into the game.
Sure.
And Lockdown there are a lot of things happening, and you need to keep track on all those things that are happening.
Yeah, the lights, I really found that funny. You could try and kill the lights in a level, and if there's a player you don't really like, you can just kill the lights, and things get more intense.
Yeah, it's true.
Which I really like. All in all, I think Nemesis Lockdown is a great game.
Yeah.
Which is still pretty affordable to buy in retail.
Yeah, it's about $100, I think.
Yeah, 120 if I'm correct. And with the, I bought it on GameFound. It was on GameFound, I think.
Yeah, it was a GameFound.
And I've got some extra enemies which I at one point want to explore.
Yeah.
But we're nowhere near that.
Yeah, okay. I do like the sense of danger, the tension that comes along. Is William a trustworthy companion, or is he a traitor? That's really nice. But there are a lot of things happening, and I don't think you are able to control all the things that are happening just by yourself.
No.
So you need a group, but yeah, you're not able to control everything. I think that's the major downside for me, is that some things are out of control and you can't help losing the game.
No, that is correct. At one point, if the game takes too long, there are too many strong enemies, and getting ammo, or at least defeating those enemies, is pretty gnarly.
But you like gnarly.
I like that, yeah.
I guess so. Okay, nice. Tell me about your number 2.
Well, my number 2 is Brass of Birmingham.
It is?
You'd say it is. Oh, we're in agreement?
We're on agreement.
Oh my god. Then tell me why.
Well, Brass of Birmingham is an economic game, and it's a streamlined economic game.
Yeah.
But it takes a while to learn. It takes probably 45 minutes to learn, but once you're in the game, you never want to play something different. And I think the strong mechanics are the main selling point of the game. You have to build up your own economy. There are 2 phases in the game. It starts off with the canal phase, and you have to build a network of different companies or industries, and you need bricks, you need coal, you need
iron,
beer, well, several resources to build up all the components in your industry. And sometimes you need resources to build up the next level of a building, but you don't have the resources, and you have to buy or get the resources from somebody else. But if you do so, they're able to gain points. So what are you going to do? Are you going to invest in your own engine, but slow down a little bit because it needs time and turns to invest in it? Or are you going to lend some of the resources of your neighbor, but helping them out, gaining victory points? And I think it's a really well done game. And what I really like is that there is a kind of a reset middle of the game, because you're going from canal phase to the railroad phase, and it starts all over again. And I really like that, to be able, when you're a little bit kicked down, to get back on track in the second phase. Yeah,
that's correct. There is a little caveat on that. Notice that, if I'm correct, if you build a building of a high enough level, it stays on the board. It sticks on the board.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But yeah, of course, I can agree 100%. This game is very good. The mechanic with the cards is very good. That on the cards it says where you can build or what you can build. You can swap your cards for different cards, or more like a joker card that gives you more options. I really think that is a good mechanic. You throw away your cards and you're getting better cards, but it does take you a turn. So that fantastic idea that you had might be gone by the time that you could play your card. This game is beefy. It has a lot of strategy in it.
But without becoming too slow. It runs well, but it's complex too, and I think that's really well done.
All in all, kudos.
If you want to buy a game that is forever in your collection, this is one of the games you should buy.
I 100% agree.
Perfect. So, one more game to go.
One more game to go, and please let it be a different game this time.
Yeah, okay. My number 1, don't copy me, Bloodrage. What's your number 1?
Bloodrage.
Oh no! So I explained on the previous games what I liked about the game, and one of the things I really like is that people are able to get into the game soon. So it doesn't really matter what kind of player group you have on your table. They need to be able to enjoy the game fast and to play it right. And I think one of the games that does this tremendously well is Bloodrage. It's really fun. It's a game that is an area control game, but it has a drafting mechanic on top of it. And it's really easy to grasp, but it's also pretty intense, and it's strategic. Players clash with each other, I think in turn 1 or 2. So the heat is on right off the bat when you start the game. And I really like that, and it doesn't stop anymore from that. It gets more intense over time.
I think with this game you can still have a lot of strategy. Your opponents can hurt you a lot, but all in all, the cards that you get can really determine the strategy you want to use.
Yeah.
And first, if you try the Loki strategy, which is a good strategy, but once players know what you're up to, they're going to kill your whole strategy. But one thing with this game is that you need to know what strategy you're going to use, because if you're going to change strategy mid-game,
that's probably not a good idea.
You're not going to win the game.
No, not at all. And this game is suitable for 5 players.
Yeah.
So it fits a larger player group, and it doesn't really matter how many players are on the table. So I think it runs well with 3. Probably not 2, but 3 players until 5 players, and it's all fun.
Yeah, well, we played it with 2 players, and that was fun too.
Yeah, it was.
And it's an older game.
Yeah.
But it's a masterpiece in my opinion.
Absolutely.
It fits just exactly as you said. It doesn't really matter which. With a new player, you can always get this game to the table. Okay, so that was our top 5. But what is a top 5 without just one more? So I want to know, there are games that didn't make the list. We said we wanted games that we tried more than once.
Yeah.
So what is a game that could be on our list, or at least your list, next year?
Oh, that's a difficult question, because I have 2 games in mind for this. I think about ISS Vanguard. It has been on our shelf for a long while, but I want to play campaign games through and then start the next game instead of playing several campaign games
at once.
That's not working for us. So that has the potential. I like an audio app. It's in it. It has a little bit of base building, research, exploration. So it has all the elements I really like. But I'm also thinking about the Isofarian Guard, and I think the Isofarian Guard is maybe a little more to my liking, because I really like the fantasy theme to it, and it's a more emphasis on exploration, I think, than ISS Vanguard has. ISS Vanguard is also the base building, the research, and all the other stuff. And well, the Isofarian Guard is okay. You can go over this. You can accept this quest. You can go over there and accept that quest, and it really feels like a sandbox game to me.
Okay, I know that ISS Vanguard is really story heavy, so it's mainly focused around the story.
Okay.
The other parts are more like Gloomhaven. When you return, there are several steps that you can take.
Upkeep.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it is really about the story. Everything you do
affects the story?
Yeah, sure. Once you step on a card, there's storyline, and the story is constantly evolving, so it's very story heavy.
Okay, maybe too story heavy?
I think that some players might find it a bit frustrating, because every time you touch a new card, there's a story. And once you progress on a card, there's a new card, or at least new story.
Alright.
But okay.
What's yours?
Mine is one that we've played now a couple of times. It is Hegemony.
Yeah, I thought it.
I so much like this game. I could say that I might want to say there's something in me that says Frostpunk has some potential too, but we haven't really grinded through that game. And Hegemony is so streamlined. Yeah, of course, you need to take a day off and learn the rules. Sure, sure, and do that.
The investment, but it's worth it.
Do that right now. But this game, everything seems to fit. Everything seems to work. And yeah, okay, I can also say that there are some elements that are more easy, like the working class is more easy. Yeah, and I think the capitalist
asymmetrical clauses, and what you're mentioning, the working class is the easiest class to play, but you have also the what's called the middle class.
The middle class, and the capitalist,
and I think the middle class is difficult to play because the winning conditions are different for each class.
Yeah,
and
the scoring conditions.
Yeah, the scoring conditions. That's what I was looking for. So yeah, you have to be a little bit lucky which class you are playing.
Yeah, and I want to add to that actually for me the capitalist was also pretty hard because yeah, sure you do get in a lot of cash, but you need to
spend it
too,
taxes, loans.
And to keep that money is so hard. But I really like this game, and with 4 players, with the state, with the events coming into the game, it all feels like it was constantly draw jobbing for me.
Okay, I do like this game too, but if you compare to Brass of Birmingham, on Brass of Birmingham, players are not asymmetrical.
No.
They are the same, and that really helps new players get into the game.
Yep.
And this game is asymmetrical, so if you never play the game, you can't compare your actions to the other players because they're doing something different.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the downsides of the game, but okay, sure, it's a fine game, and we need to test it more intensely.
Well, as you can see, our top 5 is very different from our top 5 last year, but that was all that we had to say at this moment. If you liked this video, please leave a like or consider subscribing, and we'll see you in the next video.
Or
that's very nice.
Start at number 5. William, what have you brought this year? What is your number 5?
Well, my number 5 is in this case, ik heb eigenlijk geen idee.
So before we start this video, let's send some ground rules.
Yeah.